The light of three suns filtered through the vast crystal dome of the Great Hall of the Imperial Council on Zelkara Prime. Holographic star maps rotated lazily above the central dais, casting blue and gold shadows across thousands of delegates representing hundreds of species from across the known galaxy. The murmur of countless voices speaking in their native tongues filled the space, a cacophony of sounds rendered intelligible by the universal translators embedded in each seat. Ambassador Keth moved with purposeful strides across the polished obsidian floor. His pale blue skin seemed to shimmer under the ambient light, a trait common to all Altarians. Known throughout the galaxy as peaceful envoys and skilled mediators, the Altarians had earned respect even from the most warlike species. Keth had devoted his entire career to diplomatic outreach, particularly to worlds on the fringes of galactic society. And today, that experience weighed heavily upon him. Ambassador, Counselor Zara nodded as Keth approached the central platform. Her silver-scaled skin reflected pinpoints of light as she moved. The Council did not expect your presence today. The schedule is quite full with the preparations for the Earth campaign. Keth acknowledged her with a gentle tilt of his head. That is precisely why I have come, Counselor. I bring urgent news regarding Earth that the Council must hear before any military action is taken. Zara's eyes narrowed slightly, the vertical pupils contracting. The conquest of Earth has been planned for 3 cycles. General Vex will not appreciate delays based on diplomatic concerns. This is not about diplomacy. Keth's normally gentle voice hardened with conviction. This is about survival. Before Zara could respond, a fanfare of deep, resonant tones announced the arrival of the council members. Keth took his position near the speaker's platform, his 4-fingered hands clasped tightly behind his back to conceal their trembling. He scanned the faces of the gathering council, representatives of the 12 most powerful species in the galaxy, architects of an empire that spanned thousands of worlds. The last to enter was General Vex, a hulking figure in gleaming red ceremonial armor. The Zelkarian warlord moved with the confidence of one accustomed to victory. For 300 years, Vex had led the Imperial fleets to conquest after conquest, expanding the Empire's reach to unprecedented bounds. His scaled head rose a full meter above most other delegates, and his 4 arms, each capable of crushing durasteel, bore intricate tattoos commemorating his victories. Esteemed members of the Imperial Council, the Grand Speaker's voice echoed through the chamber as the assembled delegates fell silent. We gather today to finalize the plans for the integration of Sol System, specifically the planet designated Earth, into our glorious empire. General Vex will now present the invasion strategy. Keth stepped forward, breaking protocol. I request immediate speaking rights on this matter. I bring information critical to the Council's decision. A ripple of murmurs spread through the assembly. The Grand Speaker's expression registered surprise, then annoyance. Ambassador Keth, this is most irregular. The Altarian delegation has already abstained from voting on this matter, as is your custom in military affairs. I am not here to vote, Keth replied, his voice calm but insistent. I am here to warn. General Vex's laugh boomed across the chamber. Warn? About the humans? His massive frame shook with amusement. Ambassador, our intelligence indicates they have barely mastered rudimentary spaceflight. Their most advanced weapons would not penetrate even our scout ship's shields. What possible warning could you offer? Keth met Vex's dismissive gaze. That Earth is not what it appears to be. General. And that every species that has attempted to conquer it has disappeared without a trace. The chamber fell silent. A bold claim, the Grand Speaker finally said. Do you have evidence to support this assertion, Ambassador? I do. Keth activated a small device on his wrist, A holographic projection appeared above the central dais, replacing the star maps. The image showed the twisted wreckage of what had once been a massive warship, now floating lifeless in the void of space. "This was the Corran battlecruiser Invincible," Keth said quietly. "It disappeared 50 solar cycles ago while on a reconnaissance mission near Earth. The Corrans believed it was lost in an asteroid collision." He tapped his device again. The image changed to show another derelict vessel. This one cleaved nearly in half. "The Nexari science vessel Enlightenment, officially recorded as lost to a drive malfunction 38 cycles ago." More images appeared in rapid succession. A flotilla of small scout ships, their hulls breached. A massive transport vessel, its cargo holds empty, and crew quarters abandoned. A mining operation on one of Jupiter's moons. The equipment intact, but not a single worker present. "7 species," Keth continued, his voice echoing in the stunned silence. 7 attempted incursions into the Sol system. None returned. None reported combat. They simply vanished. Dr. Ewell, the Council's chief scientific advisor, rose from his seat. The Quantum's crystalline body structure caught the light as he moved. "These images prove nothing. Ambassador, space is dangerous. Accidents happen. Systems malfunction. Crews mutiny. There are countless explanations more plausible than suggesting that a pre-spacefaring civilization somehow defeated 7 advanced species. I anticipated your skepticism. Doctor." Keth tapped his device once more. "This is an audio transmission from Captain Thex of the Altarian exploratory vessel Horizon. It was received 16 cycles ago, moments before all contact with the ship was lost." A voice filled the chamber, distorted by static but clear enough to understand. The fear in it was palpable. "Do. They were waiting for us. Gods help me. They were waiting. Our sensors showed nothing, primitive satellites, rudimentary aircraft. But when we entered orbit, the ships, so many ships, they're using technology that... Impossible. Phase shift drives we've never... Weapons cutting through our shields like... Not responding to our surrender signals. Please warn the others. Earth is a trap. Earth is..." The transmission cut off abruptly. Silence hung heavy in the chamber. Keth looked around at the council members, seeing the first flickers of doubt on some faces. But then General Vex laughed again, though with less conviction than before. "A clever fabrication. Ambassador. Or perhaps your captain was experiencing hallucinations from solar radiation. Our long-range scans of Earth show exactly what they have always shown. A primitive civilization barely capable of reaching their own moon. Their communications are filled with petty conflicts and trivial entertainment. Their militaries use combustion weapons and simple ballistic missiles." Vex stood to his full height, towering over the assembly. "I have conquered 342 worlds for this empire. Many tried to deceive us about their capabilities. All failed. All now serve the Empire faithfully. Earth will be no different." Several council members nodded in agreement. Dr. Ewell tapped at his data terminal. "Our sensor sweeps confirm General Vex's assessment." The scientist announced, "Earth's technology level registers as Class 3, barely into the information age by our standards. They have no energy weapons, no faster-than-light capability, no unified planetary government. They pose no threat to our forces." Keth felt despair rising within him as laughter began to spread through the chamber. He had failed. The evidence that had seemed so compelling to him was being dismissed as fabrication or coincidence. "The invasion fleet is already assembled," General Vex announced proudly. 3,000 ships, including 50 dreadnoughts. We could conquer 100 Earths with such force. We depart in 3 rotations." The Grand Speaker nodded. "Then it is settled. This council thanks Ambassador Keth for his..." concerns, but we see no reason to delay the inevitable expansion of our glorious empire. The humans will soon know the privilege of serving under our guidance." As the meeting concluded and the delegates began to disperse, Counselor Zara approached Keth, her expression unreadable. "You truly believe what you told us," she said. It wasn't a question. Keth nodded. "I do, and I fear we have just sentenced General Vex and his entire fleet to death." Zara studied him for a long moment. "For your sake, Ambassador, I hope you are wrong. For if General Vex returns victorious, as he always has, your credibility and that of your people will be severely diminished in the eyes of the Council." "If he returns at all," Keth replied softly. The massive Zelkarian armada emerged from hyperspace, in perfect formation, a synchronized dance of 3,000 warships that instantly surrounded the blue-green planet. General Vex stood on the command deck of his flagship, the Dominator, admiring the display of power and precision on the tactical hologram. "Magnificent," he rumbled. All four arms crossed over his armored chest. Let the humans gaze upon their new masters and tremble. Commander Bex, his second-in-command, monitored the incoming data streams. "Scanning their communications networks, General, they appear to be in chaos. Their primitive detection systems have just noticed our arrival." "As expected," Vex nodded with satisfaction. "Any military response?" "Minimal and disorganized," Bex reported. "Some of their aircraft are being scrambled, and their space agencies are attempting to focus observation satellites on our fleet. Their world leaders are trying to establish emergency communications with each other." Vex's lipless mouth curled into what passed for a smile among his species. "Begin the standard intimidation protocol. Position dreadnoughts over their major population centers. Disable their satellite networks and military communications. I will address their leaders in 1 hour to announce the terms of their surrender." "By your command, General." Across Earth, confusion and panic spread as the alien fleet appeared in the skies. News broadcasts were interrupted. Social media exploded with eyewitness accounts and shaky footage, and government hotlines were overwhelmed. Military bases around the world went to their highest alert status, though few had any idea what they could possibly do against the armada that now surrounded their planet. In the White House Situation Room, United States President James Harris stared at the satellite images on the large display screen, his face grim but composed. "What options do we have?" he asked the room of military advisors and intelligence officials. Joint Chiefs Chairman General Rodriguez shook his head. "Conventional options? None. Mr. President, our most advanced fighter jets can't reach their altitude. Our ICBMs could potentially reach some of their vessels, but we have no idea if they would have any effect. And they've already disabled half our satellite network," added the NASA director. "We're effectively being cut off from each other and blinded." The president nodded slowly. "Then it's time for Operation Mousetrap. Get me Director Caney." A hushed silence fell over the room. One of the younger staffers looked confused, but nobody offered an explanation. The president picked up a secure phone and spoke just 3 words. "They're here, begin." Around the world, in deep underground facilities, abandoned mines, underwater bases, and remote mountain fortresses, systems that had lain dormant for decades began to activate. Hangar doors concealed beneath Antarctic ice slowly opened. Desert sands shifted to reveal launching pads. Ocean waters parted as platforms rose from the depths. On the Dominator, Commander Bix frowned at his monitoring station. "General, I'm detecting unusual energy signatures from multiple locations on the planet's surface." "They're nuclear reactors, perhaps," Vex suggested dismissively. "Or their primitive attempt at shields. Nothing to be concerned about." "No, sir. These are different. not matching any known human technology in our database, and they're increasing in intensity. Before Vex could respond, a junior officer called out, "General, multiple launch detections from the planet's surface." "They're missiles," Vex laughed. "Let them come. Our shields will—" "Not missiles, sir. Aircraft. Thousands of them, rising from concealed locations all over the planet." The tactical hologram updated, showing swarms of small craft launching from Earth's surface. They were not the crude jets that human militaries were known to use, but sleeker, more advanced designs. "Impossible," Vex breathed, watching as the swarms organized themselves with a precision that no primitive species should possess. Sir, they're accelerating at—" "This can't be right," Commander BX's voice faltered. "The readings suggest they're using gravitational propulsion systems." General Vex slammed a fist onto the command console. "That technology is at least Class 7. The humans cannot possibly—" "Incoming transmission from Earth," interrupted the communications officer. "It's being broadcast on all frequencies, including our encrypted channels." "How could they know our—" Vex caught himself. "Put it through." The central view screen filled with the image of a human female in a flight suit, her aircraft cockpit visible behind her. She was young by human standards, perhaps in her third decade, with dark hair pulled back tightly from a face set with grim determination. "Attention, alien fleet. This is Captain Kate Sullivan of Earth Defense Force Squadron Alpha. You are in violation of Sol System sovereign space. Power down your weapon systems and prepare to be boarded." Vex stared at the screen, momentarily speechless, before breaking into roaring laughter. "Earth Defense Force? You dare to make demands of the Imperial fleet? Your puny aircraft cannot even reach our altitude, let alone penetrate our shields." The human's expression didn't change. "We're not coming up to you," she said calmly. "You're coming down to us." As if on cue, warning alarms blared across the command deck. "Multiple hull breaches reported throughout the fleet," BX shouted. "Some kind of—" "Projectile weapons are penetrating our shields as if they weren't there." On the tactical display, Vex watched in disbelief as dozens of his ships reported damage. The human aircraft were launching missiles, primitive in appearance, but somehow bypassing the most advanced shield technology in the known galaxy. "Impossible!" he muttered again, then roared, "Return fire! All ships, full defensive protocols!" The Zelkarian fleet responded, energy weapons lancing down toward the approaching human fighters. But something strange happened. The targeted craft seemed to shimmer and vanish just before the beam struck them, only to reappear elsewhere. "They have phase shift technology," BX said, his voice hollow with shock. "General, that's Class 9 technology. Even we have only theoretical models." Captain Sullivan's voice came through again, calm as ever. "Your weapons are ineffective against our defensive systems. Stand down now, or face the consequences." Vex snarled in fury. "No primitive deception will save you. All ships, launch fighters, overwhelm them with numbers." Across the Armada, launch bays opened and tens of thousands of Zelkarian fighter craft poured forth, each piloted by an elite warrior trained from birth for space combat. The human fighters responded by activating glowing blue energy fields around their craft. As the two forces collided, the Zelkarian pilots discovered to their horror that their energy weapons dissipated harmlessly against these fields. Meanwhile, the human fighters fired what appeared to be conventional ballistic weapons, but each impact on a Zelkarian craft resulted in catastrophic systems failures. Commander Beek studied the readings with growing alarm. "Sir, they're using some kind of energy-dampening ammunition. When it impacts our hulls, it's creating localized dead zones where none of our systems function." "Adapt! Overpower them!" Vex commanded. But even as he spoke, more alarms sounded. "Sir, new contacts emerging from behind Earth's moon." The tactical display updated, to show a formation of larger human vessels, previously hidden from the fleet's sensors by the moon's bulk. These were not the small fighters, but capital ships, each nearly the size of a Zelkarian cruiser.
"All ships, focus fire on those vessels,"
Vex ordered.
"They cannot possibly have shields strong enough to—"
His words died in his throat as the human capital ships fired. Not energy beams, not conventional missiles, but some kind of pulsing blue spheres that moved with impossible speed. Where they struck Zelkarian vessels, the ships simply ceased to exist, seemingly erased from space itself.
"What in the seven hells was that?"
Vex demanded. "Unknown, sir," BX replied, his voice shaking. "It appears to be some form of localized matter conversion weapon. They're turning our ship's matter into energy." General Vex, conqueror of 342 worlds, felt something he had never experienced before: fear. This was no primitive species fighting with crude weapons. This was a highly advanced civilization that had somehow concealed its true nature from the rest of the galaxy. And they had just sprung their trap. "General," BX's voice was barely audible now, "I'm detecting new energy signatures from Earth's oceans." The tactical display showed massive structures rising from the seas, orbital defense platforms equipped with weapon systems beyond anything in the Imperial arsenal. Sir, we've lost contact with Battle Group 7, Battle Group 3, Battle Group 12. The reports came in rapid succession as Zelkarian ships vanished from the tactical display. General Vex." A new voice came over the communication system, male and authoritative. "This is Director Peter Caney of the Earth Defense Initiative. Your invasion force has been neutralized. Your only option now is unconditional surrender." The tactical display confirmed the human's words. Of the 3,000 ships that had entered Earth orbit, barely 500 remained operational. The rest had been destroyed or disabled in less than 30 minutes of combat. For the first time in his long and storied career, General Vex, Supreme Commander of the Imperial Forces, spoke the words he had forced countless others to utter. "I surrender." The holding facility was deep beneath the surface of what the humans called Colorado. General Vex sat alone in a white room, his armor removed, wearing a simple garment provided by his captors. His massive frame made the human-sized chair uncomfortable, but discomfort was the least of his concerns. 3 days had passed since the utter defeat of his fleet. The humans had been efficient and, surprisingly, merciful in their handling of Zelkarian prisoners. No executions, no torture, not even harsh conditions. Just containment, medical treatment for the injured, and a seemingly endless series of questions. The door slid open, and a human female entered. She was small, even by human standards, with dark skin and close-cropped hair streaked with gray despite her apparently middle age. She carried only a data tablet. "General Vex," she said, taking the seat across from him. "I'm Dr. Lisa Grant, Scientific Director of the Earth Defense Initiative's Xenology Division." Vex regarded her with a mixture of curiosity and lingering anger. "Have you come to gloat, Dr. Grant? To stand before the defeated enemy and proclaim your superiority?" She smiled slightly. "No, General, I've come to explain." "Explain? What is there to explain? You deceived the galaxy. You presented yourselves as primitives while harboring advanced technology. A dishonorable but effective strategy." "That's not entirely accurate," Lisa replied, activating her tablet. A holographic star map appeared between them. "What I am about to tell you is known to less than 1% of Earth's population. The truth about our world and our place in the galaxy." The star map zoomed in on Earth, then expanded outward to show the galaxy. "Humans did not evolve naturally on Earth," Lisa began. "We were placed there approximately 50,000 years ago by a species we know only as the architects. Vex's eyes narrowed. The architects are a myth, a fairy tale told to explain archaeological anomalies. They were very real, general, and they had a purpose for us. Lisa manipulated the display, showing ancient ruins on the various worlds. The architects were the first spacefaring civilization in this galaxy. As far as we can tell, they explored, they built, they connected worlds, but they also made enemies. The display shifted to show a stylized battle between enormous spacecraft. The architects fought a war against something they called the consuming darkness. We don't know exactly what this enemy was. Another species, perhaps, or something more alien. What we do know is that the architects were losing. Vex leaned forward despite himself, captivated by the story. In their desperation, the architects created weapons, living weapons. They took promising species from across the galaxy and genetically modified them to serve specific military functions. Some became soldiers, some became pilots, some became strategists. And humans? Vex asked. We were their last and most desperate creation, Lisa said quietly. Designed to adapt, to innovate, to survive at all costs. They enhanced our intelligence, our creativity, our aggression, and then they did something unprecedented. They hit us. The display showed Earth, surrounded by a strange energy field. Earth was designed as both a prison and a fortress. The architects placed us here, along with their most advanced technology, then concealed us behind a perception filter that made Earth appear primitive to outside observers. Then, they erased our memories of our true nature and origins. Why? Vex demanded. What purpose would that serve? Insurance, Lisa replied simply. If they lost the war, they wanted at least one of their creations to survive, hidden from the enemy. And if some future threat arose, Earth would appear to be an easy conquest, until it was too late. Vex sat back, his mind racing. Ambassador Keth, he tried to warn us. Yes, the Altarians encountered one of our early defense systems. We allowed a single ship to escape with enough evidence to serve as a warning. We hoped it would be heeded. But why maintain the deception? If you possess such advanced technology, why not join the galactic community openly? Lisa's expression grew somber. Because of the final gift, or curse, the architects left us, knowledge. She adjusted the display again, showing complex genetic sequences. When the perception filter hiding Earth is breached by hostile intent, like your invasion fleet, it doesn't just activate our defense systems, it unlocks genetic memories in a select few humans. Memories containing the architects' knowledge, their technology, their history, and the truth about the other species they created. Understanding dawned on Vex's face. Like my people, the Zelkarians. Yes, General. Your people were also engineered by the architects, designed specifically for conquest. Your aggression, your physical prowess, your instinctive understanding of warfare, none of it evolved naturally. You were made to be soldiers. That's absurd, Vex protested, but with less conviction than he might have expected from himself. Our empire has existed for thousands of years. We have our own history, our own culture. Yes, you do, Lisa acknowledged. After the architects disappeared, whether they won their war or lost it, we don't know. Their created species were left to develop on their own. Some, like the Altarians, evolved toward peace. Others, like the Zelkarians, continued to conquer, Vex finished quietly. But not by choice. Not entirely. Lisa continued. The architects programmed certain imperatives into your genetic code. The drive to expand, to conquer, to build empires. It's literally in your DNA. You've been following programming written 50,000 years ago. Vex stood abruptly, towering over the human. You expect me to believe my entire species has been nothing but puppets? That our glorious empire is just the product of some ancient manipulation? Lisa didn't flinch. I expect you to consider the possibility, General, and to consider what it might mean for your future. What future? I am defeated, my fleet destroyed, and my reputation ruined. Perhaps, Lisa agreed. Or perhaps this defeat offers you something no Zelkarian has had in 50 millennia, a chance to choose your own path. She stood, deactivating the tablet. Think about what I've said, General. Tomorrow, we'll discuss what happens next. As she moved toward the door, Vex called after her. Dr. Grant, the other ships that came before us, the ones that disappeared, what happened to them? Lisa paused. Those who surrendered, like you, were given a choice. Those who continued fighting. She shrugged. The architects designed their fortress well. After she left, Vex sank back into his too small chair, his mind reeling with implications. If what the human said was true, and his instincts told him it was, then everything he had believed about himself, his people, and their place in the galaxy was a lie. And somewhere deep within him, something that had been dormant for 50,000 years began to stir, the freedom to question. 6 months after the failed invasion, the Grand Hall of the Imperial Council was in an uproar. Delegates shouted over one another, accusations flew across the chamber, and the Grand Speaker struggled to maintain order. The holographic displays showed images that many still refused to believe. The shattered remnants of the once mighty invasion fleet limping home, the testimonies of survivors, and most disturbing of all, the formal application of Earth to join the Galactic Council, not as a conquered world, but as an equal. Ambassador Keth watched the chaos with a mixture of vindication and sadness. He had warned them, and they had not listened. Now, the Empire itself teetered on the brink of fracture as conquered worlds began to question the narrative of Zelkarian invincibility. Ambassador, Keth turned to find Counselor Zara beside him, her silver scales dulled by stress. Counselor, these are difficult times for the Council. Indeed. She gestured toward the central platform, where General Vex, now stripped of his title and wearing the simple garb of a civilian, waited to address the assembly. Did you know? Truly know what Earth was? I suspected, Keth admitted. The evidence pointed to something beyond our understanding. But the full truth? No. That was hidden even from my people. The Grand Speaker finally restored enough order to proceed. Vex of Zelkara Prime has requested to address this council regarding the Earth campaign and subsequent events. Given the gravity of the situation, this request has been granted. Vex stepped forward. Without his armor and military bearing, he seemed somehow smaller, though no less intense. His voice, however, carried the same authority it always had. Members of the Council, I come before you not as a general, but as a citizen. Not to make excuses for defeat, but to share truths that may change how we view ourselves and our history. Over the next hour, Vex recounted everything he had learned during his captivity on Earth, the architects, their war, their created species, and the genetic programming that had shaped the destinies of so many worlds for 50 millennia. I did not believe it at first, he admitted. But the humans provided genetic evidence that proved beyond doubt that my species, and many of yours, were engineered for specific purposes by these architects. The Zelkarians were designed to conquer, to build empires, to wage war. It was written into our DNA, a compulsion we never questioned, because it felt natural to us. Murmurs spread through the chamber as delegates grappled with these revelations. The humans were different, Vex continued. They were hidden away, a final resort, keepers of the architect's legacy. When we breached their world, We activated ancient systems that awakened this knowledge in their leaders. They defeated us, not because they are inherently superior, but because they had access to technology far beyond our own. Technology created by the same beings who created us. If this is true, the Grand Speaker interjected, why have the humans chosen to reveal themselves now? Why not remain hidden? Because they believe the cycle has gone on long enough, Vex replied. For 50,000 years, species have been playing out the roles assigned to them by creators who are long gone. The humans think it's time for all of us to choose our own destinies. Dr. Yule stepped forward, his crystalline form glittering under the lights. These claims are extraordinary. What evidence do the humans offer beyond their word and yours? They have opened their world to scientific delegations, Vex said. Even now, researchers from a dozen worlds are studying the genetic markers, the archaeological evidence, the activated technology. But more importantly, they offer this. He activated a small device, similar to the one Keth had used months before. A new hologram appeared, a massive fleet of ships, unlike any the Council had seen before, sleek and powerful, emerging from Earth's atmosphere. This is the Human Liberation Fleet, departing Earth 7 days ago. They have the power to conquer any world in this galaxy. Their technology exceeds our own by centuries, perhaps millennia, yet they do not come as conquerors. The image shifted to show the fleet separating, heading in different directions. Instead, they come as teachers. Each of these ships carries scientists, historians, and genetic specialists. They offer to help every world understand its true origins and to undo the genetic programming that has kept us locked in patterns established 50 millennia ago. Keth felt a presence beside him and turned to find a human woman standing there. Not Dr. Grant, but another female with pale skin and auburn hair. She wore a simple blue uniform with no insignia of rank. "Ambassador Keth," she said quietly. "My name is Sarah Chen. I represent Earth's diplomatic corps." "Ms. Chen," Keth acknowledged with a slight bow. "I wondered when your people would send a representative to the Council. We thought it best to let Vex speak first," she replied. "His testimony carries weight that ours would not. But now we wish to extend a formal invitation." She handed him a small crystal cube. When Keth took it, it glowed softly and projected a detailed star map showing a route from Zelkara Prime to Earth. "Earth is opening its borders to peaceful visitors," Sarah explained. "We particularly welcome the Altarians, whose wisdom and diplomatic skills are legendary even by our standards. There is much we could learn from each other." As Vex concluded his address, and the Council erupted into debate once more, Keth studied the human beside him. There was nothing outwardly remarkable about her species. Bipedal, symmetrical, with the usual sensory organs. Yet these unassuming creatures had hidden in plain sight for millennia, guardians of secrets that could reshape galactic civilization. "Why now?" he asked her. "If what Vex says is true, you could have revealed yourselves at any time. Why wait until you were attacked?" Sarah's expression turned thoughtful. "We needed to be certain. The knowledge of the architects has been returning to us gradually, over many generations. With each attempted invasion, more was unlocked. We had to understand our purpose fully before we could decide whether to fulfill it or chart our own course." "And what did you decide?" "That the architects are gone, but their creation remains. A galaxy full of intelligent species with the capacity for both great destruction and great harmony. We believe it's time to move beyond the roles we were designed to play and create something new together." The Grand Speaker's voice cut through the chamber, calling for order. "The Council will now hear Earth's petition for recognition." Sarah straightened her uniform. "That's my cue, Ambassador." As she walked toward the central platform, Keth noticed something he hadn't seen before in the council chamber. Hope. Not the artificial optimism of conquest or the forced cooperation of empire, but genuine possibility. The architects had designed them all for war. Some to fight, some to conquer, some to hide. But perhaps, Keth thought as he watched the human address the assembled delegates with quiet confidence, they had outgrown their creator's intentions. Perhaps they could write their own destiny among the stars. And it had all begun with a warning that no one had heeded, except, in the end, those who needed it most. In a secure facility beneath the Pacific Ocean, Dr. Lisa Grant reviewed the latest reports from the Liberation Fleet. 17 worlds had already accepted Earth's offer of assistance, eager to understand their true origins and free themselves from genetic programming they hadn't known existed. Others remained suspicious, convinced this was some elaborate human plot to establish their own empire. Time would tell, and for the first time in 50 millennia, time was something they all had in abundance. The door to her office slid open, and Director Peter Caney entered. Though approaching 70, the director moved with the energy of a much younger man, his lean frame belying the weight of responsibility he had carried for decades. "The Zelkarian Council has voted," he announced without preamble. "They've accepted our delegation and the genetic treatment program." Lisa smiled. Vex was persuasive, then. More than persuasive, they've appointed him to lead the transition committee. Apparently, being the only Zelkarian to survive a defeat has given him a unique perspective they find valuable. And the Empire? Caney shrugged. Fragmenting, as we expected. Some worlds are declaring independence. Others are forming regional alliances. A few hardliners are trying to maintain the old power structures, but without the genetic imperative driving them. Many Zelkarians are questioning the very concept of empire for the first time. Lisa leaned back in her chair, gazing at the wall of monitors showing data from across the galaxy. 50,000 years. That's how long we've all been playing out someone else's war game, following programs written into our DNA by creators who may not even exist anymore. "Does it bother you?" Caney asked. "Knowing we were designed as weapons?" "We were designed as the weapons," Lisa agreed. "But we became something more. That's the one thing the architects couldn't program. Evolution, physical, cultural, ethical evolution that took their creations beyond their original purpose." She gestured to one monitor, showing a recently uncovered architect facility on a distant moon. They made the Zelkarians to conquer, the Altarians to mediate, the Quantums to calculate, and dozens of other species for specific functions in their war machine. But each species eventually developed art, philosophy, unique cultures that had nothing to do with their intended purpose. And us, we were their doomsday option, hidden away, designed to unleash devastating power when needed. Yet we created music, literature, democracy, religions, Lisa pointed out. We questioned our existence, searched for meaning beyond survival. Even with their genetic modifications, the architects couldn't prevent us from becoming more than weapons. Caney nodded slowly. "So, what happens now? We've revealed ourselves. We've offered to help free other species from their programming. But once that's done, what's our place in this galaxy?" Lisa stood and walked to the large viewport that looked out into the ocean depths. Strange, luminescent creatures drifted past, following their own ancient patterns. "That's the beauty of it, Peter. For the first time since the architects created us, we get to decide, all of us, humans, Zelkarians, Altarians, all the species of this galaxy, get to choose what happens next. Not because of programming, not because of some ancient imperative, but because we choose to write our own story. Somewhere above them, beyond the ocean and the atmosphere." Earth's remaining defense fleet maintained its vigilance, not because they expected another invasion. Word of what had happened to General Vex's armada had spread quickly throughout the galaxy. But because old habits died hard, in time, perhaps, those habits too would change. The weapons would be repurposed, the fortresses transformed into centers of learning or gateways to the stars. The children born after the revelation would grow up knowing their true heritage, but unburdened by the weight of being someone else's creation. They would forge their own destiny, bound not by the intentions of long-vanished creators, but by the choices they made together. And it had all begun with a warning, a trap, and an empire that didn't listen.